Welcome to 4am Art, and this is Justin. So here we have this peony drawing from previous videos, and what I wanted to do is just add a couple more immature buds along with it, just to make this drawing a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to start with a bud here on the right side, just an oval, not really a lot of detail because the petals aren't really coming out yet. So there's not much to this really. We'll go ahead and add a couple sepals. These little structures. Let me know in the comments if I'm naming these parts incorrectly. And then of course we've got our stem. Let's just go ahead and finish this off right off the bat before we start the second bud. And I'm using my micron pen here, a couple different sizes. The thin one, of course, just to kind of differentiate the petals that are not quite yet blooming or opening. Here I'm back to my thicker micron pen, and we'll go ahead and start shading this with a pencil as well. I'm adding a little bit of detail here first with the thinner micron, just like I did with the main flower. Here we go with the pencil. Again, it's a school number 2 type pencil. The sepals and the stem, of course, are green, and it'll be a darker tone. Just like any bud, the oval will have a three-dimensional structure. And so you'll want to be deliberate with your dark tones and make the gradient as well as you can to make it look three-dimensional. And here I'm going to put a little bit more mature bud that as it opens, as I'm showing here, the petals stay in that concave shape. So again, it'll be a roundish bud, and the outer petals are starting to open up. There'll be a lot of other petals that are still forming the inner structure, and I'm separating some of these petals here. And I'm gonna, based on how I made these petals, I'm gonna change the direction of the stem. Yeah, whenever you draw something and you initially draw certain structures and you need to change it, feel free. Okay, I'm going on to my micron pen and I'll start outlining it. Again, I'm using a thicker micron pen for the initial outline, and I'll go to my finer micron for the details. The edges, of course, are irregular, as I'm showing here. And like I mentioned, the petals maintain their inside shape or curvature. And of course, as it blooms, the petals get a little bit bigger until it forms the full-size flower as I drew earlier. Again, this is kind of like a rosebud where the inside petals are still bunched up, and you can kind of differentiate the different petals. And we will go ahead and shade this as well. You want to make sure you put your darker tones where the shadow areas are. That way you give it a nice three-dimensional look to it. We'll make the sepals, of course, a little bit darker than the petals themselves. So looking at the main axis of the bud, I did erase the stem again and redrew it. And we'll go ahead and ink that now. Yeah, so feel free to change things around as you progress through your drawing. Here I'm adding some finer details on the surfaces of the petals using my finer micron. If you haven't seen the first videos of this drawing of the peony, please check those out, where I draw the large flower, and a second video is where I go in more detail as far as how I shade using a pencil. Pay attention to the direction of your line, like right here. And I'm adding more lines here just to give it some depth, that the inner part there is dark in deep shadow. Same here. So even before I use my pencil, it's already looking through more full, more depth, more three-dimensionality. So here I'm putting in the darker shadows, the areas where the light's not reaching, and they tend to be towards the bottom, of course. And as I mentioned before, the sepals are green color, so that automatically makes them darker as far as the tones. Again, I'm not going to use a blending stump here. I'm just using various strokes, trying to get my gradient as well as I can. Alright, so I decided to go ahead and add some leaves right here. And I'm just going to go directly to my pen. Check out your reference picture to make sure you have the shape correct. This is going to be foreshortened, and I'm going to go ahead and add some shading using my pen. But we'll add a little bit of shading as well with the pencil. Add another one just behind the stem here. And again, add some shading, because this will be a darker color, of course, with the green. And add a little bit of shading with a pencil. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. And I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.